Yes, people, we are live. Life Stories is back yet again. But before we get into it, people, let's hit the intro. Welcome back, footballing audience. Life Stories is upon us again. Joining me for episode 6 will be special guests RJ Arsenal blog, the Gooner Talk TV, and the Chronicles of a Gooner. Hashtag Life Stories is back. Yes, people, we are live. Albert J TV. Life Stories episode 6. It has been a while, people. Content with a difference, I like to call it. As you can see, I've got 3 of my Arsenal brothers. We are related somehow, but I have to look down the food chain on long lost stories. But there's some connection there, surely. But now I'm buzzing to get these 3 guys on in particular, because this content series for me is a bit different from, as I said to the guys, away from the blood and thunder of social media and Twitter Arsenal world, which is a job in itself, to be honest with you. But people, like I say, smash the like button if you haven't already and subscribe to the channel as you have done. Thank you to the new subscribers. And I will put this on my IGTV later and also on Spotify and Anchor, so you can listen to my dulcet tones, apparently, because I sound good on the podcast, apparently. But further ado, because I'm on a time schedule, because these guys are busy, man. I'm going to introduce my little brother, I call him. Rohan, thank you for agreeing to come on. It's been a while. I don't get to see you many times, but pleasure to get you to come on, man.
No, it's always good to come on. I think when we both kind of started our journey doing different things, we did an early video, and then it was a while before we did our next one. I always enjoy sharing a platform with you, and really happy that you've invited me on again.
You know what? No need to thank me. It's my honor and pleasure to get you back on again. And I'm going to introduce my second fantastic guest. Recently got to know this guy a little bit better. He's actually quite funny off camera, actually. Good old Tom Canton, the Gooner Talk TV. Tom.
Oh, you built that up.
Tom, it's a pleasure, man. No, thank you again for having me on your channel. I actually didn't see that one coming, but I'm appreciative. So I'm glad you come and agree to this channel, mate.
No, absolute pleasure. It was, as I say, I was happy to have you on the show the other week, and yeah, it's great to be sharing a platform with you on your own side of things, for sure.
No, I appreciate it. Welcome to the red carpet, Tom. Southeast London red carpet. And with further ado, last one but not least, I've spoken to Harry quite a few times, sort of over the course of the last probably year, 18 months, probably even before that. But I got to meet the gentleman. Lovely bear hug he gave me at the protest against Everton, which proper man hug, mate. That's what I like to see. But Harry, absolute pleasure, man. Firstly, before you say anything, you give me an amazing chance on your platform. You've always brought me on, been courteous to me, so it's very much appreciated, and thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, man. Pleasure to be here, and you're one of the good guys when it comes to the Arsenal Twitter world, which is there is, there's loads of good guys, but there's loads of guys that you're kind of just like, yeah, they're not going to do anything but abuse me. So when you meet people like yourself, it's nice to do stuff together and make friends out of it as well. And I regard you as a friend, mate. So it's just great to be here.
Oh, much love. I am blushing, people, but you just can't tell because of my skin complexion. But it's fine. It happens. But yeah, let's get stuck in, man. I'll be totally remiss of me not to obviously talk about developments in the Premier League with a certain team in the Northeast in Newcastle. I just want to get you guys' thoughts very quickly on it because it's been overload in the last 24 hours. But Newcastle, I have new ownership. Mike Ashley has gone. Amanda Staveley, after 4 years, I believe, or so, has finally sort of got her, not clause in, but has made the necessary sort of changes, and Newcastle under new ownership. My sort of take on it before I quickly come to Rohan to kick off what your thoughts are about it. I've always said that if there's one set of football fans I absolutely feel sorry for, it's Newcastle United fans. Like I said, Mike Ashley's been there long. He had been there very, very light at the end of the tunnel. I've heard talk about awful training grounds. The stadium needs a lick of paint. Every season, they don't really do well in any of the cup competitions. They're not going to get top 4. They're not going to get top 6. So it's a difficult watch. But listen, what I would say is, I heard a lot of Newcastle fans say yesterday they've got their club back. what I would say is, I remember the 7th of October 2018. That might not ring a bell to a lot of Arsenal fans, but we beat Fulham 5-1 away when Emery was in charge. And a lot of Arsenal fans, they were singing, "We've got our Arsenal back." Long time ago now. So, Rowan, I'm going to bring you in. What's your sort of immediate thoughts about the Newcastle takeover and maybe the implications for Arsenal, possibly?
Yeah, I think similar to you, I think if there's one set of fans who you could say deserve this, is Newcastle. You know, it's a massive city, the fan base is huge, and they've had to suffer a lot under Ashley over the years because they obviously have huge expectations, but those expectations are kind of belittled because of the lack of ambition that Ashley has shown over the years. And I think with this takeover now, it's given them a lift, and certainly I think in their next game, I think is against Spurs.
Yes,
You can definitely see that kind of lift that's been happening with this takeover translate onto the pitch. It's one of those ones where I am happy, but at the same time, it is a bit worrying for Arsenal and for other clubs like Liverpool as well, where we're clubs where we have spent money over the years since Kroenke has taken full ownership. But at the same time with us is that any significant investment that we make, we have to make sure that that works. We can't afford to let that be a poor investment. Whereas Newcastle, as they kind of develop under this new ownership, it is going to be a couple of early years where they will have to endure a bit of pain, you know, just like Manchester City when they first had Mark Hughes coming in when they had their ownership. But as time will progress, I think it's going to be a situation where they're going to be similar to the likes of Manchester City and Chelsea, where they're going to be able to spend money, significant money on players, and they're going to have a lot of opportunities to make risks in the market because they know that if they do make mistakes, they'll still be able to bring other players in and they'll be able to sell them on as well, just like Chelsea have done over the years with the likes of Morata, Bakayoko as well, 2 signings, for example, who haven't really, you know, kickstarted their Chelsea career in the way that their fans expected. But even though they didn't perform, they were still able to sell them for large money and they were able to bring other players in and spend significant money. So I'm happy for them, but at the same time, I'm a little bit wary in the next 2 or 3 years in terms of the situation which they could reach and where they could be positioned in the table.
No, well said. Good thoughts on that. And when it comes to Tom, yeah, what's your sort of kind of immediate thoughts about the Newcastle takeover? Lots been said, shall I say?
No, yeah, loads have been said, to be fair. And I think a lot of people obviously are a bit concerned at the moment because it's another club that can arguably spend more than we can in regards to what they need to make. And we know that Newcastle have never really been a threat to kind of the top, I'd say top 4. We're not a top 4 side, not hardly top 6 these days, but kind of a threat to the top half of the table, I suppose, is a more accurate way of describing Arsenal at the moment. But they were always a side that previously had competed for titles. We know about the famous season under Keegan and what they did there. And obviously, I'd love it if we beat them. That line just absolutely sticks in my mind forever. But the idea of Newcastle again competing is great from the neutral point of view, from looking at a more competitive league. But from an Arsenal perspective, you're worried that obviously they're going to go out and spend loads of money and become another Manchester City in the broader context of things. And I think that for Arsenal, I'm still not going to lose my head over it because we just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, You look at Everton. Everton were taken over, have spent a lot of money, and they've not progressed from that point. Burnley were taken over last year, I think, for an American consortium, and they barely done anything in the summer either. And I know it takes time, but there's no guarantees in the world of football. So we'll see how they manage it.
No, great. Cheers, Tom. Thanks for that. Harry, my friend, I know you covered it this morning. I did. Great show, by the way, Harry, by the way. I did press the like button just to let you know that. But yeah, what's your thoughts, mate?
It's a hard one because I'm a little bit older than these two guys. So I remember Newcastle being like the entertainers and all of that. And, you know, so it is one of those clubs that I've looked at for the last few years and gone, I've got a lot of sympathy for their fans as to where they were and where they are now and how that's all kind of unfolded and progressively gotten worse under Mike Ashley. The only thing is, obviously, there's a lot of issues around this takeover that just don't sit right with me, that don't sit right with a lot of people. And I'm finding it really difficult to be able to kind of accept that those issues are there and say that I don't like them. But also, I've got to be careful not to pin this on the Newcastle fans because it's not their fault. You know, if this Saudi-led consortium took over Arsenal, we'd all be sitting there with a conflict like the Newcastle fans or like a lot of Newcastle fans have, where it's great, we're going to be more competitive and this is what we need. But equally, there are some issues in the background that make this just not feel quite 100% right. So they're celebrating Ashley going. It's a massive weight off of their shoulders. But I do feel like it's a little bit tarnished for some of them because of all the things that, you know, are being talked about when it comes to this consortium. So I think it will be forgotten. It shouldn't be forgotten, but I think it will be kind of brushed aside, especially in the minds of Newcastle fans if they do impress as a team and start moving forward. So I don't know, mixed feelings on it, if I'm honest.
No, thanks, guys. Thanks for your opinions on that. People, like I said, smash the like button and follow my esteemed guests. If you don't know about their channels already, then I don't know where you've been for the last 2 years or so, but follow them anyway. But yeah, let's kick off with the sort of life story show. So it's been a while. I'm like the 21st century Michael Aspel for those who are old enough to remember him. So, I'm going to kick off with Tom, actually. First question. Arsenal journey, my friend. Why Arsenal? And what were your first memories? Good or bad, should I say?
Yeah, I mean, if you end up doing this show for another 20 years, you might get more bad memories than good ones. But thankfully, I'm not that young that I can remember the good times. Yeah, I mean, Arsenal has kind of come from my granddad. He passed away before I was born, and my nan would tell me kind of stories about him being an Arsenal fan. So I kind of took on that mantle forwards. But it was actually kind of my dad is not an Arsenal fan whatsoever, even though his dad was. But because of where our area, not the most well-off area, and family not being the most well-off at the time, they only got tickets to go and watch Gillingham, which is the local side of where we are in League One and the Championship and in League Two as well. Follow them all up and down, relegation and promotion through the leagues. But that's kind of where my granddad and my dad went. But obviously, just me watching more football on telly than they did, got into obviously Arsenal, finding out more from my nan and my granddad's support of Arsenal, and then grew through from there. And I didn't actually get to my first game until I was like 17, just because I didn't have the money to be able to go. My dad wasn't an Arsenal fan, so he was never kind of the most intent on taking me. So I managed to get up to one when I was 17. It was a League Cup game against Coventry in which we won 5-1. Oxlade-Chamberlain scored an absolute screw. I think it was Olivier Giroud's first ever goal for Arsenal as well. But first memory it sticks in my mind always is whilst I was about 10 when we were going through the Invincible season, and I remember it in fits and spurts, but actually the one memory that sticks in my mind from the earliest stage was Dennis Bergkamp heading the ball onto his own bar in the FA Cup final in 2005. And in that moment, realising it doesn't matter what United do and how much they dominate us, they're not winning this final. So, and I think that's the one that sticks in my mind from my youth more than any other. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Tom, that is a beautiful story. That's why I got you on. Okay.
I won't quit my day job anytime soon. Yeah.
Listen, everyone's got their own story. Like I said, before I quickly come to Rohan, like I'm 21 plus a tiny bit of VAT, as people probably know how old I am anyway. But yeah, everybody's journey is different, my friend. So now, thanks for that. Rohan, young man, youthful exuberance. Yeah. So yeah, what's your sort of story in terms of Arsenal and your first memories?
Yeah, I think mine's a little bit different to your typical fan, where they're kind of brought up in a footballing background and it's kind of passed on to them from mums, dads, grandparents, uncles. With me, I was brought up in a cricket background. That was the sport that I learnt from an early age. I played that consistently, still play it now. And for football, it was actually in 2006 when I started actually watching and following football. And it's because it was the first time we actually got our first skybox. So I was able to kind of watch games. And at that time, it was the big four, Arsenal, United, Chelsea, and Liverpool. And just out of, I don't know why, but out of coincidence, it was always a case of whenever I turned the TV on and I put Sky Sports on, there was a game on, it was always Arsenal on. So I thought I would follow Arsenal, and that's how it kind of started. And my mum brought me my first Arsenal top in that same year in 2006. It was the burgundy top, which is still my favourite one.
Beautiful kit.
To this day. And I can't remember too much in that year. I was only 8 years old, but I do remember the game against Fulham at Craven Cottage. It was 4-0. And I can remember Thierry scoring 2 goals in that game. So I think that's my first memory. But obviously that year was also very disappointing for us as Arsenal fans with the Champions League final loss. But that was where it kind of started. And yeah, I've just been following Arsenal consistently since then. And actually it's quite funny because a couple of weeks ago when we played Wimbledon, and we won that game in the Carabao Cup. That was the first time I've missed an Arsenal game. Just watching them through pre-season and just competitive games since 2012, and I was gutted. It was the first time where Arsenal won a game, and I was so upset because I just couldn't view it. It's like a drug. You get attached to it, and that's kind of my story. It's a little bit different to what you usually hear. I've had to educate myself on Arsenal just by myself. There was no one really there to kind of give me that knowledge, that information that I could have taken on from an early age. So I've just had to educate myself, and yeah, I love it.
Brilliant story, Rowan. Before I come to Harry, listen, in my terms of my family, there wasn't anybody that really liked sport at all. The first person that kind of got me into football really was a mate of mine, who's a Tottenham fan. I know he couldn't make it up, but I never had anybody that could take me to the games, so I missed the Highbury era, unfortunately. But everybody's story is different. But Harry, let's hear your story, mate, your memories and why Arsenal, mate.
I was brainwashed. I didn't have a choice. I got to be honest. I had zero choice, zero say in the matter whatsoever. My dad is, I would still say, even to this day, a bigger gooner than me. I've never seen a grown man or a 55, 56-year-old man who still loses his shit as much as my dad does when he's watching Arsenal. So, I was brainwashed. And I don't, obviously, it's just a little bit different because you don't kind of know, you don't like naturally gravitate towards Arsenal because you're just put there, and it's kind of the thing that you just go with. But grown to love the club massively, and I remember my first game clear as anything. In fact, it was the 10th of September 1996, and it was at Highbury. It was a game between Arsenal and Borussia Mönchengladbach. In what was like the UEFA Cup back then. They beat us 3-2, and they beat us on aggregate overall and knocked us out of the competition. But Paul Merson and Ian Wright scored the goals for Arsenal. And I remember that day there was a player playing for Gladbach called Stefan Effenberg.
Yes,
I'm sure a lot of you will remember when he went to Bayern Munich. But that was kind of at the beginning of his career, and he just stood out. So that was my first Arsenal game, except the memory is of a Gladbach player who stole the show. But that's my first memory of Arsenal. But the day was really interesting for me because I was 5 years old, nearly 6 years old, 6 years old, sorry, 96. I was 6 years old, and I was in school, and my dad came and picked me up early to go to the match because at the time we lived in South London. And he came and he collected me from school early, and I thought, what's going on here? Why is he collecting me early from school? And he had told me in the morning that we had a dentist appointment, or he told the teacher that he was taking me to a dentist appointment. So when she came into the room and said, Harry, your dad's here to pick you up, you're going to the dentist, I was like, what? And basically we were going to the game. We were traveling up to North London for the game. But the reason he never told me was because he thought I would blurt it out and get him in trouble for taking me out of school early. So yeah, that was my first Arsenal experience.
When people talk about this stuff, I honestly don't remember anything before my 10th birthday. When people are sitting there going, "Oh, when I was 6, or when I was just fresh out the womb," like I don't remember any of it from my childhood.
It's funny, Tom, because there's certain things like that I'll remember clearly, and then you can ask me something else and I won't have a clue. But there's certain things that stay in your mind.
No, well said. No, like I said, with me, my first, from what I can remember, first memory really, like I said, was the 88-89 game. I was young, but I remember the game very, very well. Best memory I can remember of Arsenal, if I'm honest. Yes, I enjoyed 97-98 and Invincibles, but wow. I would have loved to have been there at Anfield that night, believe me. But I wasn't, so unfortunately I wasn't. But people, thanks for that great insight, guys. Let's move on to the next question. This is a nice question because I've got aspiring Sunday supplement journalists here on me with my panel. So I want to kick off with Rohan, actually. What made you want to get into sort of the broadcasting journalist side of football, and who did you look up to and influences? Before you answer that, sort of remembering old school journalists, Brian Woolnough, Martin Samuel, Rob Beasley, Harry Harris, Steve Curry, but we sort of look into the new era. Got Sami Makbar, we've got Vishali Bharadwaj, we have Jack Pickbrook, we have Adam Crafton. So it's changed a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily it's a young man's game, but I wouldn't complain about that personally. But yeah, sort of, what's your thoughts in terms of how you sort of view this question, mate?
It's a funny one because I only started just a year and a bit ago now in terms of actually getting into this. During uni, I studied engineering. I've got a master's in that as well, and I'm currently working full time in engineering as well. But it's one of those ones where I've always loved football. I've always loved Arsenal, and I like talking about Arsenal, and I liked just giving my thoughts. So I remember a lot of my friends were telling me to just, start a blog, start writing, just see how it goes. And the perfect time was lockdown because at that stage, as a graduate, it was difficult getting a job. And you see the same kind of emails recycled over and over again, the same jobs that you've applied for. So I thought, let's actually give this a go now. There's not much else you can really do in that period. So I just wrote my first article. I remember it was June of last year. And it got a little bit of coverage, and it allowed me to get an opportunity with Gunners Town, where I started writing consistently. And I just really enjoyed it because I'm just that kind of person who likes to just give opinions, and to write them down is a good way. And it's always good to get feedback and have debate. So that's how I kind of started. I've always kind of wanted to do something like this, but I've never really had the time to commit. And after you finish your A levels. It's a very early age to really commit to a career. At that stage, I was good at maths, but I didn't really know what to do. I thought I'd go with engineering because it was very broad. Went into that, but then I've never really enjoyed it. And what I really enjoy is football and writing about Arsenal, just covering Arsenal. And that's the kind of stuff that I've grown to really love. The passion has always been there in terms of watching the games, but to actually start writing now has grown over the last year, and I hope it can continue to be a good future. In terms of who I look up to, there's quite a few. So many different types of journalists who specialize in different fields. I really do like Art from The Athletic. I think his journey and where he started to where he is right now, that's something that's quite I admire a lot of that and love the content that he delivers on the women's team, the under 23s, and obviously the first team as well. So that's probably the person who I've got a lot of time for. There's obviously loads of others like you've mentioned, but he's the one who I really do appreciate what he does.
Yeah, great insight. People, anybody in journalism, broadcasters out there, listen to this podcast, listen to my esteemed guests, man. So I'm going to come to Harry with this question, mate. I'm keen to sort of hear what you say about this, because obviously with you three guys in particular, that's why I wanted to sort of get you on. So Harry, take it away, my friend. You're mute. You're mute, mate.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Esteemed journalist, and he's still muting himself.
Yeah. Harry, brilliant.
Terrible.
I can't hear what he said. What's he saying?
Shocking. Shocking. No, for me, I got to be honest. I didn't grow up thinking, I want to work in football media. Yeah. I grew up wanting to be a footballer, like most kids, and I was lucky enough to play football to a really, really good level. I was at Leyton Orient up until I was about just before I was 17, but I'm not going to give it the old sob story. There is no sob story. I just wasn't good enough. Got released, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do after that. And I left from school. I did my AS levels, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go with it. I became an apprentice electrician. I hated it. 6 months in, I packed it in. Then I got a job in a bank, and I was working for Barclays Bank. And I had a 10-year stint at Barclays Bank doing all sorts of different roles, but it was never it was never something I enjoyed. It was, I got married, I had a family, I had a mortgage and all this stuff. And it was like, you've got this job and you can't just bin it off. And then on the side, I started doing podcasts, and started off on a general football podcast with a couple of mates, and that went quite well. And then I decided to do Chronicles, and I've done a book, which I spent a lot of time working on, and we got that done. And then just from there, it's kind of been like a slow progression. Been lucky enough to have picked up some jobs along the way, worked a bit at Stack Media. Now I'm doing some work for 90 Min, but for me, the main thing is the broadcasting side of stuff. And I was really lucky last season to be given an opportunity by VSIN, a radio station in Vegas, who had bought the Premier League rights for the season, to do some commentary which is like my first love. That's for me. If you asked me if there's one thing I could do, it would be that, week in, week out. So got the opportunity to do some games last season. I ended up doing 42 in the end, and that for me was just an incredible year. So it's just one of those things where it's something that I wanted to do because I love football and I love Arsenal, but it wasn't a career I set out to have. But I've been really lucky along the way that I've had some great opportunities, worked with some great people, and now, touch wood, at least for now, we can keep kind of chasing the dream. But let's see.
Well deserved, mate. Well deserved, in my opinion. Tom, I'm going to come to you. Same question. So, it'd be interesting to hear what you got to say, mate.
Yeah, my story's a bit strange because just over 12 months ago I was in full-time teaching, so it's been a really strange thing, same as kind of both the guys. It's not a case of it was ever kind of an aspiration when I was a youngster. I went through school. Geography was always the thing that I went towards, and obviously the thing that I went into eventually teaching. I did that at university. And then in my third year of uni, I did an internship. That was my first kind of entry, because through uni, I joined Danny, who's in the chat box I see. With the guys
Danny.
Over at Birdcat Wonderland. And I was a regular on their radio show initially, and then I started to run the radio show for them after the games as well. And what is that yours, Albert?
No, that's definitely not me.
No, it was my phone. It was my phone.
That's a strange ringtone.
Harry, that's a beautiful ringtone, by the way.
It wasn't even a ringtone, but anyway.
But yeah, it's obviously that opportunity that Danny gave me, and the opportunity to go on there. Every single time I talk about getting through to where I am, I never forget to miss that out, because it is the most important thing. Because that opportunity, without going on ABW, I'd never be where I am now. Went from that, and then Craig started the Gooner Talk and asked me on with Mems and Wayne and DT and a few others. And obviously we went on there, and eventually I took over after I think Craig did the Gooner Talk for, I think it was a year. I think he started in 2015 and I took over in 2016. So it was about 18 months, I think it was. And then from 2016, I just carried on doing that. During that point when I went into teaching and full-time teaching. So I was doing a full-time teaching job, secondary girls' school, which for anyone who's in teaching knows how ridiculously tough teaching is. It's insane. And that's why I wanted to quit, basically. And for anyone that wants to get into journalism, and I'm sure the other boys will say exactly the same, you just have to graft, and you just have to keep chipping away, sending emails, doing applications, doing everything you can. And I'm very lucky because it happened for me quite quickly. I got a full-time job at a website called 101 Great Goals through just emailing. There was no advert on the website. There was no application. It was just, there's a website, email the person in charge. Do you have a job going? And they were like, yeah, we'll take you on. I quit teaching, went full jump off the cliff straight into this unstable situation from as secure as you can kind of be with teaching. And thankfully, after 9 months of working there, an opportunity came up with Reach, who are the company that own the likes of Football.London and the Mirror and companies like that. And I'm part of their new fan brands team, working specifically. I'm on the Arsenal side of things with an amazing group of people. Some people that people will know, like Chris Davison, I know people will be very much aware of. Hush Karai, Bailey Keogh, and an amazing team of people led up by Tom Marshall Bailey. And it's been really fun. And I mean, the other day I just interviewed Mo Farah. It's been crazy how things change. But as I said before, if anyone wants to get into it, you just have to graft, and you have to just chip away and email after email after email, and eventually something will come good. And I know that Rowan's actually doing some work with us as well. So looking forward to reading your stuff, mate, this weekend, I think.
Yeah, just on a freelance basis at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. Just like you, I'm at that stage where I'm doing things on the side right now. I'm doing that on the side because at the moment I'm secure with this full-time job in engineering. Whilst I don't like it,
engineering was actually something that I was looking at. Like, I did maths mechanics at A-level, and honestly, as soon as I did my first lesson of maths mechanics at A-level, I was like, no, this isn't for me. Awful.
It's
awful.
The thing is, the thing I would always say to anyone is, it's like you don't really know that you don't really realize how much you dislike sometimes what you're doing until you get out of it.
Yeah.
And so always chase the thing that you want to do, because I wish that I chased what I wanted to do earlier and didn't wait this long. But I had to wait that long after a while, because I got myself into a situation where I had, like I said, I had commitments. And like Tom says, you know, it's the instability of it that's scary. But you have to back yourself. You have to say to yourself, like, you know, I left a really stable job and I was like, yeah, I've got to back myself now. And I'm not going to lie, the first year I was bricking it, because you're looking at it and you're going, where the hell is my money going to come from? How the hell am I going to keep my head above water here while doing this? And then it feels like you're putting in so much time and you're not actually getting like any kind of monetary, you know, payback for it. And so, you know, it is one of those things that you have to chase, you have to graft for. But unless you're going to put that time in and take that jump, then it's very difficult. So if it's what you want to do, then go for it, man.
Yeah.
No, guys, listen, this is why I wanted to get you on, particularly with this particular kind of question, because there are people out there who do want to do what you guys want to do and want to forge a career in the respective careers that you guys want to go into. So, guys, listen, man, nothing's easy. It's no guarantees in life. So, basically, what I'm saying is work your tail off. That's basically the message. Yeah. But no, before I come to my next brilliant question, I think anyway, you guys know what's coming. But people, if you don't know what to do by now, this is what you should do by now. And there you have it, people. For the audio listeners, when you do listen to this, if you hear the beautiful music, you are not in a massage parlor. It's just an intro to subscribe to the channel. So next question. I'm going to kick off with Tom, actually. And this is a good question, I think. Let me get it out. Let me get it out.
He does say so himself.
Oh, no, sorry.
This is a great question. We'll go around yours for dinner. This is an amazing meal I've cooked.
Tom, you can. When we go off stream, I'll let you know where I live, but we'll come around, get together, whatever. But Tom. So obviously you three guys have got YouTube channels. But it's a question I've sort of asked a lot of people because I like to get their thoughts on it because everybody's different. But I think it's a very key question. What are the biggest differences you've noticed when you first started your YouTube channel till now? Pros and cons, please. Hashtag pros and cons.
Honestly, I thought really long and hard about this question because it's really hard. I don't genuinely think there's, for me, and I haven't experienced clear differences, say on YouTube for the last 6 years, because it's really difficult to come from the point of view of being a guest on the channel, say 6-7 years ago, as I was at ABW, to then running a channel now and noticing the difference between the two. What I would say is that the longer you do your channel, and I'm sure Albert and Harry will attest, and Rohan, of course, will be able to test, the longer you do your channel, the bigger the kind of community that you build. And you notice the loyalty beyond anything else, I think is the biggest pro. Is the people that will tune in every single week and that will come to every single show, that will drop a like on your video, that will share your videos online. And that, when I noticed that kind of at the start, and I was like, this is the key. This is building a community of loyal listeners and paying them attention and creating things for them specifically, not just new people to come along to check out, but just to entertain your regular guests. That was always kind of the biggest pro for me that's changed over time, because your community grows. Negatives, I think just trolls in general. Trolling is probably the worst thing about it. People are jealous. It's just the way that the world is. People want what you've got. People want to be where you are. And because they want that, they'll leave a nasty comment on your video, or they'll say that this isn't good enough, or you're boring, or this or that. Like, it's just, and you just have to move past that. And it's really difficult because you'll get 20 good comments on a video and one bad one, and you focus on that bad one more than you do the good ones, because we're human and it's just what we do. So they're the kind of big things that I've seen. The change is that the more you grow, the better the community, but the more you have to kind of deal with in a trolling sense, and you can deal with it. So
yeah, no, great answer, Tom. Rohan, before I come to you, Tom, you mentioned the keyword, and I've thought of the question I've obviously asked you guys. If I was to ask myself the question, I think the thing I've noticed is you could say it about life in general, but you do touch on it with a jealousy thing. You do. Sometimes it's not really obvious, but you can tell when it comes across, because sometimes you start the journey out with certain people in terms of the YouTube side of it. And yeah, not everybody wants the best for you. I've noticed that very, very, very quickly in the time I've done YouTube since June 2020. But Rowan, I'm going to bring you in. Sort of, what's your thoughts, my friend? How have you found it?
Yeah, I'm a lot less active on YouTube in comparison to all three of you. I started a channel because I just wanted to be a little bit more versatile and show that, you know, I'm not just a person who can write about Arsenal, can actually speak about them as well. Haven't posted a video in 5 months, but it's a really good question, and just like Tom, it's a difficult one as well.
It is a very difficult one.
I think the best way I can kind of explain this is linking my social account and also YouTube as well, because it's very similar in terms of the pros and cons, where obviously you build that community from an early stage, and the consistency that you put in and the work rates, people do acknowledge that, and they do appreciate it, and you gain that kind of that following, that platform of loyal people. But at the same time, you are going to get a lot of negativity as you grow, and that's just the reality of it, and you have to expect that. It doesn't matter if you're the nicest person in the world, you're completely positive, you'll get called deluded in that sense. And if it's the other way around, you'll get called just lacking any sort of positivity, because it's one of those ones where, as Tom says, you focus on the negative comments. I remember I love watching all types of football across all the different leagues, and what I was doing in my latest kind of videos, which was around 5 months ago, is just looking specifically at William Saliba and Guendouzi and Mavropanos, because they were out on loan. And I know a lot of people, you know, they don't watch a lot of the other leagues. So I thought maybe if I could give them a little bit of a different kind of insight into it, it could be good content. And it was going well, but you're going to get nasty comments as well, you know, especially on the Saliba, because it's a very sensitive topic.
Very sensitive.
To him. And with me personally, it doesn't affect me, you know, social media, anything that I see with regards to negativity, I just block out, I ignore it, and I don't even reply. I think the best thing to do is to not even reply to these troll comments, because that's what they want you to do. They want to get a reaction out of you. Obviously, there's certain comments that, you know, for example, an accusation, you have to reply to that because that's serious. But at the same time, I think best is to ignore those trolls, because it is going to come, you know. And what I've really liked is, I don't know if you guys have similar opinions on this, but I think over the last year, I've seen a lot more people kind of jump on the YouTube scene and start channels and are looking to kind of voice their own opinion. And I really like that. But at the same time, I think they have to also understand is that, you know, as you grow, you will get negativity. And my advice would be to not kind of change your opinion and your beliefs because of a couple of negative comments. Always be true to yourself, because that's what's got you to the position that you're in, you know, once you've grown your platform. So yeah, it's a really good question, a difficult one, but that's the kind of best way I can really answer it.
I'm glad you said it's a good question, because obviously if I say it, then, you know, people might see that.
You've already said it 3 times, Albert.
You're right, Harry, you're right. I just want to say it again anyway. But no, Harry, before I come to you, Rowan, you make a good point, because I'd even broaden it out to social media. I've been lucky in the sense that you won't see me engage in too many Twitter debates. I just won't. I always made that promise to myself, not even with football. One thing I don't tweet about is politics, because that's a massive hotbed when it comes to Twitter. The Brexit thing completely just turned me full circle. I said, you know what, I can't engage with certain people. So Tom and Harry, you're very good at it with debates about football on Twitter. I've seen it. I'll give you a medal for replying back to some of the replies you do, because I haven't got the time for it. I just can't do it.
I think you make a good point. You know, I put a tweet out on Pepe the other day, and he's a player who, you know, I've always given a lot of time for, and I've tried to back him. But you come to that point where, you know, from my perspective, I'm struggling to really find any positives with him. I put a tweet out, and you just have a look at the quote tweets. There's about 60 there, and it's all a lot of trolls and negativity. And that's the way it is, isn't it, with Twitter? You know, you put a comment out on a specific player, and even though it's respectful and you kind of articulate your point in a way that's not being abusive, you'll still get comments from people who back that player and will turn it into abuse and stuff. So I think the best is to just block and move on. You know, a lot of occasions, I think there's no point even replying. Reply to the people who want to debate and are putting thoughtful comments and things like that. Ignore the trolls.
Yes, debate is the key word, which doesn't happen a lot on Twitter and Instagram, especially. But Harry, come to you, mate. Same question. Yeah, sort of. How you, if any, what's the biggest differences you might have noticed from when you first started till now?
All the things that the guys have said, that the sense of building a community and seeing people that are kind of loyal to what it is you're doing are obviously the pros. They're massive pros. And I guess for me, it's kind of like a portfolio of work as well. That's another pro that you get from it. Like, you can refer people, to your platform, and that kind of gives them a bit of an indication as to what it is you do. So those are the pros for me, and obviously enjoying it, enjoying putting together the content, enjoying what you're doing is what it's all about. Having creative freedom to do the content that you want to do. I've been in jobs when I first kind of started in this industry where I was being told what to write or what to write about, and I didn't particularly enjoy that. So to have that freedom is obviously really nice and really cool. The negatives, a lot of it is the troll thing, right? And for me, at the beginning, I never found it an issue ever. I used to just brush it off, and it didn't bother me in the slightest. And then it got to a point where it did bother me, and it was starting to irritate me, and it was starting to wind me up. And I'd finish work, and I'd go sit down on the couch, and I'd be sitting on my phone responding to kind of idiots all night. That weren't, you said debate, that they weren't debating because they don't know how to debate. They just literally talk absolute nonsense as if they've got nothing better to do. And I've been guilty in the last 6 months, probably more than ever, of actually biting at it and responding to it. And maybe that's because at times I've not always felt 100%, or I've had stuff going on that's made me not 100%, or I've been tired, and I've kind of had less of a tolerance to it, and I've reacted and responded. And someone, like a good friend of mine, kind of said to me, it was a couple of months ago now, where he could see it. He must have seen it on his Twitter thread, kind of constantly coming up. And he said to me, "Listen, mate," he goes to me, "You've got a wife, a kid, another kid on the way at the time. Spend time with them. What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time with this?" And it's so true. And I've made a conscious effort lately to ignore it more, but it can get to you. It can make you doubt the work that you're doing. It can make you doubt whether you want to continue doing it. But I think, like I was saying earlier on, it's so important to do something that you enjoy. And why should some idiot on Twitter behind an anonymous profile take that away from you, or make you feel like you can't do that? So I look at it very differently now. And to be honest with you, let them come, like whatever, innit?
That's the motto. That is the motto. Listen, you're only human, mate. Sometimes it is difficult not to bite. I mean, the only sort of, I won't even call it even the massive argument I had on Twitter. The only reason why the person responded is because it was about Mesut Ozil, because he was a very divisive character amongst the fan base. And dare you say anything about him, it doesn't even have to be negative, and it just triggers people. It just does. But I've got a couple more questions for my amazing panel people. Like I said, don't just smash the like button. Don't even touch it. Smash it. But I've got a curveball question from my panel. They didn't know this was coming, but it's a good one. I think it's a good one.
Of course you do.
Tom, I'm going to kick off with you. If you do have one, maybe you don't. Favorite football commentator? Hashtag curveball question.
Oh yeah. Do I have a favorite? I really like Jonathan Pearce on BBC, and I think he does BT Sport as well. And obviously, back in the day, he did Robot Wars as well, which was kind of a big thing in my childhood of watching that. So I remember that massively. So yeah, just Jonathan Pearce. I don't know why. I just quite like his voice. I think it's one of the best voices out there for the game. People talk about like the nuances and some of the things and some of the historic moments of commentary, but no, just give me someone with a decent voice who doesn't talk over the bits that I don't want talked over, and I'm happy. So yeah, Jonathan Pearce all day long.
Good shout. With Jonathan Pearce, I think for me, obviously where I heard him on the radio, sort of when I first heard of Jonathan Pierce.
Capital Gold back in the day, Albert.
I wasn't sure whether it would work with him on Match of the Day, but I know. Yeah, actually, I think it does. I think he's pulled it off. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
I just remember listening to the first time, being like, "Hold on, he's on Robot Wars." I just remember watching a game when I was a kid, just remembering back and thinking, "Oh, I know that voice."
Good shout, JP, Jonathan Pierce. I'm gonna come to Harry. Actually, who's your favorite?
For me, it's currently Peter Drury.
Oh, he stole my thunder.
Because
he's brilliant.
For me, the guy's a poet. Like the phrases and the kind of things that he comes out with, having done the job obviously nowhere near as well as he does, I recognize how difficult it is to do that, to nail the moment every single time. And also the other thing with commentary, right? And obviously these guys that we're talking about are seasoned professionals, and it'll be easy for them. But do you know how difficult it is to stay fully 100 million% concentrated for 90 minutes without fail and not to ever miss any detail of the game? Like it's so difficult. So I've got loads of admiration for him, and for him to be able to do that, but also then pull off these incredible lines and moments, I think he's special. And I would like to see, I know he does a lot of the main work sort of overseas, but I'm sorry, I love Martin Tyler. He's fantastic, but I think it's time for Peter Drury to get the Sky spot. I got to be honest.
Amen to that. Peter Drury, hands down.
Yeah,
brilliant commentator. Don't get me wrong, there's some good ones out there, but for me, for quite a few years, I thought he's the best. I think he's brilliant. And Harry, you're right. I agree. I think because Martin Tyler's been around for a hell of a long time, man. I remember Martin Tyler in the old First Division 1. He's commentating, so he's been around a long time. But Harry, great shout. Peter Drury, I agree with that. Rowan, what about you, my friend?
I was going to say the same. Yeah, Peter Drury. I'm a huge fan of him. And Martin Tyler as well, even though I think he doesn't have that same effect on me in previous years, I still think, he's got that voice, and it's kind of like just that commentary he gives. The North London derby, he was covering the Arsenal game on Sky Sports, and the Aubameyang goal, it wasn't like an insane level of commentary, but it was just the way he says things just sticks with me, and I love it. The other one I was thinking of was Emma Hayes when she was doing content in the Euros. I think she
very good job.
Very good. It's a different type of commentator, because obviously you have a lot of commentators who are very similar, and just like Harry says, it's a very difficult job to do. But I think Emma Hayes, I really like the tactical insight that she gave, and I think it's good for the audience to get a different perspective. And I think she did a really good job in giving that, especially considering how she's done a great job for the Chelsea women's team, and the way she was commentated, I thought it was really good. So I would like to see more of her. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for her because she's coach of the Chelsea women's team. But yeah, I think she's definitely one that immediately came to my mind as well, along with Peter Drury.
Just a quick one as well. Like, I think people forget about how hard radio commentary is as well. Like, we think our heads go straight to watching on telly, but like Ian Dennis on 5 Live is insane. Like the radio commentary is so difficult, because you can have breaks with TV. Like you can just let the play out, go for a bit. But with radio, you are describing every detail of what's happening in the game, because obviously those listening aren't watching what's happening, and you don't have that benefit. So yeah, honestly, radio commentators, the most respect in the game for what they do.
Radio is tough. And the first couple of games I did last season, I had feedback from the producer after the game. He was like, it's fine, but you've got to talk more about where the ball is on the pitch. So it's no good saying Pablo Marie to Tierney, back to Marie, like that you can do that on TV. Yeah. But on a radio, you've got to give specific, he's 6 yards in from the touchline. He's midway inside the opponent's half. Like, you have to get all of that stuff in. And it is so hard to always remember that as well. So I completely agree with Tom. It's a much more difficult job, I think, on the radio than it is on TV, for sure, because you are the picture, right? There is no picture for the consumer, if you like, to kind of see and for you to compliment. You are all of it.
No, great answers. Peter Drury, hopefully you're coming to Sky anytime soon, mate. But last question, people, I'm going to ask my panel. I'm going to kick off with Rohan, actually. Kind of a 2-part question. Score prediction for Palace when we do come back from the international break. And when I say thoughts and feelings about the draw against Brighton, I'm talking more about the sort of Arsenal fans' general views about the game, because it was very. I mean, I thought we lost 6-0 if I'm going by some of the reaction of the Arsenal fans. I mean, I'm just baffled sometimes. But yeah, Ryan, what's your score? Give me your thoughts on the game against Brighton first, and then finish with the score prediction.
Yeah, I think going into the Brighton game, there was uncertainty with their team with regards to Welbeck and Webster and Basuma. And when the teams came out, those three were all out. And the way that Brighton function and the way they kind of build up from the back, those guys are very crucial to them, especially Danny Welbeck, who doesn't get enough credit, I think, in terms of the role he plays for that Brighton team. Because whilst they can play out from the back and they're very good in that aspect under Graham Potter, he gives them that different type of dimension in where you can go a little bit more long. And his pace and physicality can get them up the pitch in a different way. So before the game, I felt that 3 points was imperative. But then as you look at the balance of play and the way the game kind of panned out, you have to say it was a point gained. And I was saying something a couple of weeks ago where a lot of Arsenal fans have looked at the fixtures ahead, and they're very favourable fixtures, certainly. But at the same time, what I've been saying is that over the past 2 or 3 seasons in the Premier League, the quality across the league has risen. You know, you look at Brentford, they came up, they play a very modern style of football. Even the coaching setup, everything's so modern. They play really good football in the Championship, and they've showed that in the Premier League. And you have other teams as well, where you look at some of the players from the lower half teams, they could get into the top teams. And that's why there's been so much inconsistency in results throughout the league, barring the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool over the years. And I think exactly the same is going to happen this year, where apart from the likes of Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea, no one's going to win 4 games on the bounce consistently. It didn't happen last season. It didn't happen the previous year as well. So to win 3 games after the situation we were in with no goals scored, no points on the board, and it was disastrous, to then pick up 3 wins and then take a draw against a Brighton team who have been playing well in the Graham Potter, I think 10 out of 12 is a solid return, you have to say. And if we continue to play like that and pick up points like that, we'll be right up there near the top end of the table in comparison to previous years. So my thoughts on that game were, going into it, I felt 3 points should be the target, especially considering the players they had out. But when you look at the balance of play, I'd definitely take a point. In terms of Palace, I think that they're a team where I wouldn't look at the position that they're in the table to kind of judge the way they've been playing. They've been playing really well under Patrick, and it's really good to see, because I think Palace over the last couple of seasons, they brought in really good, smart pieces of business. Last season with Eze coming in from the Championship, this year with Gallagher on loan, Guehi, who did really well for Swansea last season, he's came in. Odson Edward, who I've been a fan of for quite a while, he's there now, and Michael Ollies as well. And I think Palace, I like what they've done in terms of they've taken a risk in going away from Roy Hodgson, who's given them that stability and that Premier League status. And they've kind of abandoned that, and they want to take that next step, play a more attractive brand of football. And that's why they brought Patrick Vieira in. And so far, when you look at the way that he set the team up, the way they press with intensity and the organisation, they've done really well. You know, look at the Tottenham game. They completely outperformed them, even before the red card. And recently against Leicester, they deserved 3 points. They played really well in that game. And Brighton a couple of weeks ago as well, where Graham Potter, who gets a lot of credit, and rightly so, when you look at that game, Patrick Vieira tactically outdid him in that one. And obviously with Morpé getting a late equaliser, people who haven't watched the game will say, you know, they won't look at it from that kind of perspective. So this will be a difficult game. I think the fact that we're at home will give us a big advantage, because I'm a little bit wary of us playing at Crystal Palace. The Selhurst Park reminds me a bit of the Bowling, West Ham, where it's a little bit more of a closed, smaller stadium. The atmosphere the fans generate is significant. Yeah. And the way they press, the way Vieira's got the team pressing, they sustain pressure really well, and they keep the opposition pegged back in their half really well, and they create good opportunities as well. So I expect them to have been a much difficult test for us if it was at their ground. But with it being at home, I think we'll win the game. It'll actually be interesting, because when I've been watching Palace quite closely, there's quite a lot of similarities in terms of the way Vieira sets the team up and the way Arteta sets the team up in terms of the way they build out. So it could be an interesting tactical battle. But like I said, with it being at home, I think we'll win the game 2-0.
Oh, interesting. Before I come to Harry, it's funny with the Brighton game. I actually went for a draw. Like I said, I took the North London derby in isolation because I didn't forget how we performed in the games prior. Hence the reason why I wasn't surprised we got the draw. And actually, I thought it was a point gained against Brighton because we could have easily lost that game. So, Harry, coming to you, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that Rohan said. To be honest, I felt like, you know, it was maybe a little bit unrealistic to expect Arsenal to go and blow Brighton out of the water. You know, we've seen this team be incredibly inconsistent over the last 18 or so months, and so to see them kind of look a little bit flat was not really that much of a surprise. The only thing I was disappointed with was the lack of what seemed to be a lack of energy. And I don't really understand why that was. You know, there was a week between that game and the North London derby. There was no midweek fixture. So that was my biggest disappointment. But look, sometimes it's just not your night. And as Rohan said, he pointed out that people aren't winning games consistently in the Premier League. Going into that weekend, nobody had won 4 on the bounce this season. So, you know, to expect a side who had started the campaign the way we did to be the ones to do that felt a little bit unrealistic. So, under the circumstances, 10 out of 12 available points was very positive. Moving on to Crystal Palace, I think we should beat Crystal Palace at home. I expect us to beat Crystal Palace at home. It's the type of fixture we have to win if we want to get back into Europe, let's be honest. But it isn't going to be easy. And one of the things I've liked about Arsenal in the last few weeks is that even when we haven't played particularly well going forward, we've looked quite solid and quite comfortable defensively. And look, if you can hang on in games even when you're not playing well and you don't give things away cheaply and you've got the quality that we've got in the attacking areas, then you've always got a chance. So prediction wise, I'm going to go for a famous old 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Flipping hell, Harry. So before I come to Tom, when I looked at the 4 fixtures at the time, so it would have been Brighton, it would be Palace, Villa, and Leicester. I said Arsenal would get 8 points out of 12. I thought we draw against Brighton. I actually think we're going to draw at home against Palace, and I think we win away against Leicester, and I think we'll beat Villa. So 8 out of 12. I think that's a reasonable return with this Arsenal side, by the way, because we don't know what we're getting week in, week out. So, Tom, to finish off the episode 6, the final question. What's your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I echo a lot of obviously what the boys have said there. I think the Brighton game was a classic cliche of saying that's a game we lose last season or the season before. That's a game that we drop all of the points in. So you could argue that there's progress there because there are games like that where we just don't turn up in an attacking sense. And often it's kind of a defensive error or the grind eventually wears us down and we concede. But you can clearly see the difference in the quality at the back line and the goalkeeper as well and how we've kind of stepped up in those areas. So that's a bit of a reality check. If anything, it's more important to see how we respond off the back of this because we've not really seen an opportunity for Arsenal to respond. I know that we obviously beat Norwich after the whole Manchester City humbling, but it was a weird scenario that because it was a different team. There's a lot of players that weren't available that were available then for Norwich. But pretty much everyone that played against Brighton will be playing against Crystal Palace. So that specific 11 has now got the opportunity to respond, and how that team responds against Crystal Palace is going to be really interesting. Being at home, I agree with the boys, we should have enough to win. Do we make any tactical tweaks or changes is the big question. Did Sambi Lokonga's kind of perform, not Sambi specifically, I thought Partey was worse, but the point is that Partey is going to start all of our games. Sambi is the temporary replacement for Granit Xhaka at the moment. Is it right that we continue with that same 11, or do we go back to the 4-3-3 that we used against Burnley and move Ødegaard into that left-hand side midfield role to provide more of a service to the left flank? Then the question is, who do you drop? Is it Lokonga? Is it a Smith Rowe? Is it someone else? I probably would drop Lokonga and go to the 4-3-3 and then bring, to be honest, and it might be a bit left field, but I really think I want to see Martinelli given more opportunities in this side. I would play him on the left because I think you need to play a right footer on the left-hand side to give Tierney the balance and playing a left footer in Saka on the right to give Tomiyasu the balance on that side. So you get the overlaps working. It's going to be interesting. I feel like he will go with the same team he used against Brighton if I was predicting. But yeah, I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna agree with Rowan and go 2-0. I won't be as conservative as Harry on that one. I think we might get a little bit of joy in that game. But it's ironic that the away manager is going to get more of a cheer than our own one in the ground. That's going to be for sure. So we'll see how that goes.
No, guys, great answers. People in the chat, thank you. If I didn't get to read out all your comments, I apologize, but I was too busy engaged with my fantastic panel, obviously. But now, guys,
and your fantastic questions, Albert, obviously, that as well.
Of course, yeah.
No, I would have a big, massive thank you to Tom, Harry, and Rowan for coming on. I enjoy this content series. It's a bit different from what I normally do, but that's the reason why I enjoy it most. Takes away a bit of the blood and thunder of social media world, but we're all gooners. We want the best for the club at the moment. It's an interesting time for us as Arsenal fans. Not necessarily a good time, challenging times. But two things I must say before we go. Big shout out to obviously Manager of the Month, Mikel Arteta. I know how that has pleased a lot of Arsenal fans. So I had to say it like that. Sorry, because obviously, yeah. But listen, he's done well. And a big shout out to one of my Instagram family, by the way, young chap called Samuel Chinadu, who signed his contract to the Arsenal Academy. So shout out to you, young man. Big support of the channel. All his young mates all subscribe to the channel. So I had to give a shout out to him. I said I would do it. Yes, people, give your virtual waves goodbye or hugs, whatever you want to do to the panel in the chat. But Tom, thank you for coming on. If the guys don't know where to find you, I'd be very shocked, to be honest with you. But please tell people what you do and where they can find you, my friend.
You can find me at the Gooner Talk TV on Twitter, or just the Gooner Talk on YouTube, and you can find us doing some work for Reach and Football London on the Arsenal Way on YouTube as well.
Brilliant, Tom.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Genuine pleasure.
No, I appreciate it. Rohan, my little bro, thank you once again for gracing me with your fantastic presence. Always good to link up with you and to get your insight, man. A lot of time for you. Big up to what you're doing so far. But where can the guys find you, man?
Yeah, just want to say thanks again for having me. In terms of where you can find me on Twitter, it is at RJ Arsenal Blog. I do have a YouTube channel. It's just I'm not consistent on that front because I've just got quite a few things to juggle at the moment. But yeah, I write about Arsenal, just different aspects. I do threads on Twitter. I write for the Arsenal Review, Gunners Town, and also freelancing for Football London as well. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
No, big up. Shane, thanks for the question in the chat. Now, Tom's already answered it. Brilliant, Tom. There you go. Easy win.
Yeah, I'm with Tom.
Easy.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And fine but not least, Harry, thank you for coming. This is the first time to get you on eventually. I'm glad to get you on. Big up to you. Where can the guys find you? If
you made that sound like you've been asking him for years.
well, I don't know, not that long, but yeah. He's a busy man. He's a busy man, Tom. Busy man.
No, it has been too long, I have to say. No, but it's a pleasure to finally be here. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Big up to you, Tom, and obviously Harry for allow me onto your platform. I don't take it for granted because obviously there's some people you might not want to work with, but no, I take it as a privilege that you asked to come on. So big up to you guys. People, like I say, follow my esteemed guests, smash the like button. Your host, Albert JTV, Twitter handle at Umo57. Come and subscribe to the channel. That is episode 6 over and done. # life stories. Over and out, people.